I mentioned the fact that we've come a long, long way in ending legal segregation. But I must point out the other side. If I can put it in figurative language, it may be true that the system of segregation is on its deathbed. But history has proven that social systems always have last-minute strong breathing power. And the guardians of the status quo are always on hand with their oxygen tents to keep the old order alive. And so in a sense, segregation is still with us. Not in the open sense that it used to be with us, with legal sanction, but in the covert, in the subtle, in the de facto sense. And so even in the major cities of our country outside of the South, that is absolute segregation in so many situations. The Negro finds himself covered up and crowded in ghettos. And these ghettos are usually absolutely segregated. The Negro finds himself attending segregated schools which are almost always inadequately staffed, devoid of quality education. And then as we look into the whole problem of slum life, the total mental outlook of the individuals who live in the slum, we see deprivation, we see the destruction of personality. And all of these things reveal that before brotherhood is a reality, that is much that must be done. So segregation is still with us. But if democracy is to live, segregation must die. For racial segregation is a cancer in the body politic, which must be removed before our moral health can be realized. And we don't have long to do this. It is urgent to do it now, because the shape of the world today no longer affords us the luxury of an anemic democracy. We must not only do it because it will help the image of the United States, and it will certainly do that. We must not only solve this problem because it will be diplomatically expedient. We must not only seek to solve this problem because it will help us to appeal to Asian and African peoples, and it will certainly do that. We must not only seek to solve this problem to meet the communist challenge, and it will certainly do that. But in the final analysis, racial discrimination must be uprooted from American society because it is morally wrong. It must be uprooted from American society because it is sinful. Somewhere we've seen in all of the major religious faiths something that tells us that that is something immoral and sinful about segregation and discrimination. The late, great Jewish philosopher Martin Buber used to talk about the I-it and the I-thou relationship. And I say segregation is wrong because it substitutes an I-it relationship for the I-thou relationship. St. Thomas Aquinas used to talk about natural law and moral law and human law. And I say that segregation is wrong because it is based on human laws that are out of harmony with the natural and the moral and eternal laws of the universe. Somewhere the late Protestant theologian Paul Tillich said that sin is separation. And what is segregation but an existential affirmation of man's tragic estrangement, his terrible separation, his awful sinfulness? And the great challenge facing the nation today is to get rid of a system that is evil and that is morally wrong. Now, in order to get rid of this system, it would be necessary to develop massive action programs. The problem will not work itself out. In order to develop massive action programs, we've got to get rid of one or two myths that are quite prevalent and that we hear a great deal around various communities. One is what I often speak of as the myth of time. I'm sure you've heard this. This is the argument that only time can solve the problem of racial injustice. Only time can bring integration into being. And so those who set forth this argument tend to say to the Negro and his allies in the white community, just be nice and just be patient and wait 100 or 200 years and the problem will work itself out. I think that is an answer to that myth. And that is that time is neutral. It can be used either constructively or destructively. And I'm absolutely convinced that in so many instances, the forces of ill will in our nation, the extreme rightists of our nation, have used time much more effectively than the forces of goodwill. And it may well be that we will have to